Welcome to part 2 of our single user blog lesson for Drupal School. I'm Elliot Rothman, and today we're going to take a look at enabling taxonomy, which is how you can categorize your content. We'll also be adding a module, and we'll begin to adjust the structure of our menu, which currently just says edit primary links. Alright, so let's get started here. And last time we created a couple of posts, and in a blog it helps if you can categorize those posts. So when you click administer, we're going to take a look at administering by module, and we're going to look at taxonomy. We'll go to categories. Alright, so you see no categories available, so we have to first add a vocabulary before we can add actual categories. So we can say our vocabulary name will be topic. You would want to use different vocabularies if you have more than just topics. So for example, if you want to categorize things based on different topics, you could have based on different colors, based on I don't know, different, if you have a podcast site, for example, you could have different podcasts. So you could have the name, we'll say, the Drupal School podcast, this would get categorized under, and additionally, it could get categorized under a screencast, for example, rather than, something else. So that's how you use it, and you can add a description for yourself, so you know what it is, and this would just be blog topics. And you could add some help text if you want. So if you have another user later on, when you select the term, we could say select the type of category this is associated with. Alright, we can assign this to different content types. So if we want both our blog entries and our pages to be able to utilize this, we can do so, or have our stories access this. We haven't really talked about the other content types yet, but we will later on. For now, I'm just going to choose blog entry. We only want to categorize blog posts. Alright? And for the hierarchy, we can select to have a tree-like hierarchy. So we could have animals, and inside of that we could have cats, dogs, and monkeys, for example. For now, I'm going to disable that. We're going to have simple, broad topics. They're not going to be categorized too specifically. Alright, you can also elect to have related terms in the vocabulary, so if you have different terms that relate to each other, say for example we have Apple and we have Microsoft, as some of our terms or our categories here. We can choose to have those two related to each other. I'm going to disable that. But I am going to enable free tagging, because what happens is you can, one of the options that you have in Drupal is to predetermine the different terms that you have, or the different categories. For a blog, a lot of times it's just easier if you can just type in the category. Because you may start blogging about something that you never thought you would blog about. So, again, it helps to have free tagging enabled for that. And just be careful that you type in the name correctly. And we'll show you that in a little bit. For multiple select, it allows you to tag things with multiple terms. In this case, for free tagging, that's always true. So it allows us the ability to tag things with several things. We could say computers and Drupal, or Drupal and Ajax, or Flash and JavaScript, or ice cream and pizza. Maybe we're talking about an ice cream pizza. And if you check required, it means that every post with that content type has to have something tagged with it. I'm going to enable that because I don't want to accidentally blog something that doesn't have a category associated with it. Alright, and in listings it says heavier vocabularies will sync and lighter ones will be positioned to the top. This is weighting, so if we wanted, if we felt that certain topics were more important, we can elect to do that. Or I'm sorry, certain vocabularies were more important, we can elect to do that. Alright, so we'll hit submit. And now we have a vocabulary topic. And again, since we enabled free tagging, we don't have to add terms, although we could add terms. And I'll go through this just in case you don't want to select free tagging. So I could say, here would be a category or a term. This would be site news. And description would just be news about this website. And since we enabled related terms, you can have synonyms for that. And rather than site news, we'll also put news. And I find that it helps if you just leave everything lowercase. Alright, when you do that, you'll see it show up when you list all of your terms. Alright, so for under our topic, we have different terms. One is site news. Alright, so now we can go to my blog, or clicking home would get us basically to the same place, and we can actually edit an old entry. So to edit something, you just click on the title, and as long as you're logged in, you have the option to edit it. So let's do that. So since we enabled taxonomy, we have a vocabulary. Now you see that pop up as a field. So we have title and topic now. And you see this little icon down here. This will search the database in the background to find topics I may have already created. So if I type NE, you can see it do a search, and then it pops up down there, and I can just click on that for the related term. This helps prevent tagging things that should be the same term multiple times. Like if I typed in, if I misspelled something or whatever, this ensures that you grab the right term. So that's one way I can do this, and we could even totally alter this post, since I don't actually want to keep this here, and we could say, this is a test post used in a screencast. And for a title, I probably should capitalize these here. And you will probably see some of these periodically. Alright, and I'm going to leave the default settings and hit submit. Alright, and then we're all set. Now you see that the term shows up down here, and when I click that, it'll then create a dynamic list of anything that's been tagged with that. So this becomes powerful when you start adding a lot of content. And I'll be back in a second. I'm going to pause this and just create several posts so you can see how the list structure works. Okay, so now I have a few posts, and I can list these by clicking on the term associated with it. So for example, if I click personal work, I see two posts. One's a game idea that I had involving Twitter today, and another one is some progress that I'm making on an animation project that I'm working on. And it lists both of those because they're both tagged with personal work. Alright, now that's good. What would be even better is if we could have a link to that on our sidebar or something. But before I get to that, I just want to explain how to create menu items, and also what some of the other content types are. So we'll come back to this in a little bit. If you go to create content and select page, we're going to create a static page that's different than a blog entry. It's just got a title and body, and it's something that's not going to change or be updated frequently. So we could say about me, and this could be a link that we stick up here as a primary link. And I could just say, hi, my name is Elliot, and alright, so I typed in some text here, and I've also added a hyperlink, and I wanted to point this out. To insert a link, all you have to do is some HTML code. You could say ahref equals equals in quotes, and then your link, and then whatever you want to link to. Or you could actually just type in the URL, and Drupal will automatically filter that and turn it into a link. So here's something that's not going to change too frequently, and I'd like to stick it up here as one of my primary links. So under input format, I can just check to see what I've set up as my preferences, and I haven't adjusted them, so filtered HTML is fine. And under here I can go to menu settings and add a title to this in the menu. So I could say that I want this to be about me, same as the title for the actual page itself. The description, when you hover your mouse over it, could be a brief bio. And your parent item, so where this appears in your menu structure. So navigation is the name of this menu over here, alright, that's set up by default. But then you also have primary links, which is the one all the way at the bottom. And that's what this link right here, which says edit primary links, is. Once I add a link, that'll go away. The weight, as you adjust the weight, you can determine where it displays it. So -10 being all the way to the left, or in some themes all the way to the top. And number 9 would be all the way at the bottom. And 0 would just be the default. Drupal will alphabetize this for you automatically, so I'm going to leave it like that. For a page, the default comment settings are disabled because you don't necessarily want them to change. You want them to look kind of set. So I'm going to leave that disabled. Authoring information, that's fine. And publishing options, published, you'll note that it's unchecked to be promoted to the front page by default. And again, for the same reason, it's a static page, it's not something that's current. You don't necessarily want your pages to be promoted to the front page because they're going to be different than your blog posts. So I'm going to hit submit, and there we go. So now About Me shows up here, and I know it's a little bit hard to read. It's because of the color scheme that I've chosen, but we're going to edit that in a little bit, so I'm not too concerned with it. Alright, so here's my About Me page. I can click on that and it'll come back here. Go back to our site, and you'll see that it doesn't list this particular post on the front page. Great. Now back to listing one of these and adding a link to it. So you can see that I can't add this as a menu item quite as easily, but luckily Drupal has this built in. It's not so straightforward, but it's very easy to do. So if we look up here at the URL, we can see that we've got the name of the folder that my site is in, and then a question mark Q equals, that's the PHP rendering, and then taxonomy /term/2. So it's part of the taxonomy, it's one of the terms, and it's the second term. Now a little bit later we'll look at how to enable a module to automatically name these things to something more meaningful, but we can change that later. For now, I'm just going to copy this. So I'm just going to go edit, copy, and then I'm going to go to administer and find out where our menus are located. So we'll go to menus, and I can add another menu or another menu item. I'm going to start by adding another menu. So this will be terms, or maybe blog terms. And I'll go to add item. The title will be personal work. Whoops. The description will be blog posts about current projects. And here's where you put in the path. So you can link to a URL directly to an actual node. Remember, a node is the name, is basically a post. Or I could type in that URL that I grabbed, which actually just listed any terms associated with this term number here. Alright, so the parent item is going to be blog terms. And we'll hit submit. And we're almost done. Now we just have to tell Drupal where we want that menu to appear. So by default, it's disabled. So we have to go back to administer and go into something called blocks. Blocks allow you to put things created by modules or menus in different places on your website. So let me expand this a little bit. And you can see that it's added text. It says header is up here, right sidebar is over here, left sidebar is over here, and our content is over here, and our footer's down here. So this allows us to visualize and see where we can put blocks. And you'll see that there's a few blocks that are disabled. I can list recent blog posts somewhere, recent comments, some other things, and blog terms, which is the one that I just created, remember. And I'll stick that in the left sidebar, and I'll give it a weight of 1 because I want it to appear underneath whatever is in the navigation menu. Choose Save Blocks. And there we go. Now we see blog terms show up. And let me just click home so we don't have the blocks menu over there. And now when I click on personal work, it does the same thing. It just lists any of these terms. So the last thing that we're going to do here is experiment with adding a module. So one of the things, there's two things I'd like to do. One of them would be a way for this URL to not read something like taxonomy/term/to, and same when I click on a link, I'd like it to not display node/for. Rather than having it being numbered, I'd like it to be maybe the title, for example. Well, luckily Drupal has part of that built into core. The other part we're going to need another module to do. So if we go to administer and go to module, or I'm sorry, if we go back to task and then click on modules, that's a little confusing. Then we can see a list of modules that we have available to us, and path is one that is disabled, and it says it allows users to rename URLs. This will actually create an alias for these URLs, so you could still type in the number the old way in case you decided to get rid of this module or disable it, and that will get you the same thing as the name that you give it. So if we go back to find one of our posts, and you'll see me finding the posts located where they are in the site. There's other ways to do that as well. You could go to administer and you could go to content, and then you could view a nice list of all of the content in your website or all of the nodes. So if I wanted to, for example, change the URL for About Me, I can go to Edit, scroll down, oops, and now you can see that URL path settings are available as an option. So I could type in, well, About Me. Alright, so I'll click on About Me, and you can see up here it's got question mark, Q equals, and About Me instead of the name of the node or the number of the node. The reason we have the question mark, the Q, and the equals is because I haven't enabled clean URLs. That's something that we'll do when we get the site online. Alright, so then the next step would be to make this a little bit easier, how to get this to automatically name those for me. Well, for that we can use a module that we can find over at Drupal.org. And here we'll go to modules. And then we can browse by name. Or by category. Why don't we browse by category, because that'll kind of show you how you can find these a little easier. Alright, we'll scroll down and select taxonomy. And if we scroll down a little bit, what we're really looking for is something that will automatically name the path. So if I do a search for maybe path, nope, not coming up. Alright, it could be listed in a different category. I'll do a search up here for path auto. Alright, and we'll click here. And we can see that the description of Path Auto is that the Path Auto module automatically generates path aliases for various kinds of content, nodes, categories, users, without requiring the user to manually specify the path alias. That sounds like what we want it to do. So you can see we've clicked on this, and it has some information about it, and we can download the different releases. So one thing I do want to point out is what these numbers mean. Since there's different versions of Drupal, you want to make sure that you grab the right one. Since we're running version 5.1, this is going to be fine. And you'll note that since it doesn't have dev next to it, it means it's not currently in development, or the version that you're getting is something that has been tested thoroughly enough where the people working on it are confident that it's a stable release. If it has dev next to it, it may work just fine, but you may want to keep in mind that it's probably not a complete version of that module. So you're basically beta testing it. You're downloading a work in progress, and you'll want to frequently check back if you've downloaded a dev version. So I'm going to click download, and we'll save it to our hard drive and open it. And I'll hide Firefox for a second here. And open the Path Auto folder. So this is what happened when I unzipped the file. And what you'll want to do is look at your install.txt if it has one, or if it has a README file. You want to read this because certain modules have different installation procedures. Some of them rely on other open source projects, and due to other licensing restrictions, you may have to grab other files. So here it basically says Path Auto is an extension to the Path module, which must be enabled, which we've already done, so that's okay. It says unpack the Path Auto folder and the contents into your Drupal installation, into the modules directory of your Drupal installation. Enable Path Auto module, and make sure that you're using the administrative account, and if you're not, to enable permissions for that, and then check out the Path Auto settings page. I would advise you to really read the install and the README files before you install your Drupal, before you install any modules to Drupal. Installing a module can be risky. It's generally pretty safe, but if it creates some tables and stuff, and you don't follow the instructions, you could totally corrupt your Drupal installation. I've tested this module before, so I know it's going to work okay. So I'm not going to show you how to back your site up in this tutorial, but I will in a future tutorial. So to install this, we just have to go to our Drupal installation and find our modules folder, and just drop this in here. Alright, so we're back in Firefox here, and now I can go to Administer and go to Modules. and you'll see, oh, where is it? It's not there. Well, third-party modules appear down here, and there'll be several different categories for these. So Path Auto shows up here, and it's already checked to make sure that path is enabled, which it is. And we can go to Save Configuration. And go to Administer one more time. Module. And look at Path Auto. Go to Configure Permissions, or I'm sorry, Path Auto. And now we can look at the different settings. Now I'm not going to go through every single setting here. We'll just take a look at a few of them here. All right. Alright, for blog path settings, this is what it'll look like. And we'll do a bulk update for blog paths. So things that don't already have aliases that we've already created, we want to do that. Same with over here. This is fine. So over here it gives us some variables that we can work with to determine what the name of the path will be. In this case, we're going to just pull from the title, which is fine. So it's pretty flexible. It gives you a lot of information here. And we'll also create aliases for RSS feeds. We haven't really talked about feeds yet. Alright, same thing for categories. And users. Save configuration. And what we should see now is that all of the content that we've already created should now have meaningful paths. So if we just click on this, for example, you see that the path now says game idea rather than node slash whatever or blog slash whatever. Alright, if we look at a list here, we already set that one up. If we look at Twitter game, you can see it's got topic slash the name of the title. So this is really flexible. This is really nice. So it allows people to have basically meaningful URLs. It's great for bookmarking or for linking and stuff like that. And now we've got a little blog site, and it's almost set up. There's a few more things we need to do. So I know this was a little bit of a lengthy lesson. First few I think are going to be a little longer, and then we'll move to shorter, more focused lessons. The next and final part of this is going to be enabling one more module, which is going to list all of our different vocabulary terms along the side here. And then we're also going to take a look at not just adjusting the colors of a theme, but really tweaking a theme to make it somewhat unique. And then we'll have our site ready to launch.